Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar on modernizing relational databases with AWS. My name is Levent Özkan, and I'm Territory Sales Manager for Patinfotech Singapore. Before we start, we have some housekeeping rules. So it will be good to go over them when we are waiting for the other people joining. So your lines will remain muted during the session. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your control panel. We will address questions at the end of the session. The session is being recorded and the link will be shared with you via email. Okay, let's wait for a couple of more minutes for the others to join. Then I will introduce our speakers to you. Okay, now without further delay, please join me in welcoming our speakers. Our first speaker is Sudarshan Narasimhan. He is Principal Solutions Architect, Databases, APEC from AWS. He has 18 plus years of database experience, and he's specialized in relational databases and data warehouses. He is proficient in driving customer use cases for data architecture, and he's focused on database modernization, delivering customer outcomes on the AWS cloud. Then we have our next speaker. Our next speaker is Prabir Kumar Kundu. He is AVP of Cloud and Platform Management Services from PET. Prabir has 31 plus years of experience, and he specializes in cloud solutions. He's a recognized authority in data and cloud security. We will first go through our agenda before we just move to the speaker. So I just want to go through our agenda today. We will cover the insights into the future of database modernization. We will have AWS database services and advanced features presentation. Then Prabir will take us to customer success stories. We'll also see our cloud and new framework on cloud and how it helps organizations plan their database modernization journey. And at the end of this session, we will have a Q&A with AWS expert. There is a poll on your screen. You will see now. Please take a moment to answer the questions before we start. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I will request now Sudarshan to take the lead from here. Over to you, Sudarshan.
Thank you, Levent. Thanks for the introduction and welcome everyone to today's session. So my name is Sudarshan. I'm going to talk about database modernization and specifically AWS data services. So hopefully it's an interactive session. Like Levent mentioned, we do have time for Q&A. So feel free to ask your questions on chat. So step back, from a cloud standpoint, we hear from customers that when they're starting their cloud journey or if they're already running on the cloud, how do they get started with modernization? So both migration and modernization are equally important, especially where depends on where you are in your cloud journey. And what we see from our customers and we hear from a lot of our existing customers as well is that, hey, but as we started this cloud journey, when we started adopting more and more native cloud services, which are managed services, that's when we started realizing the full benefits of the cloud, right? So it's a journey. And as you move towards the right, as you can see on the screen, when you start adopting managed services, when you start modernization, that's where your TCO really starts to come down and you start to get the benefits of the cloud, right? And not just the cost standpoint, but also the innovation that you can bring to your lines of businesses, they start to really accelerate. So from a customer point, both savings and innovation with cloud native databases, and we will talk about some of those cloud native options today, that really helps you modernize and move your architecture from a monolithic to other types of architecture. And that's where you start realizing the full benefits of the cloud. So when we talk about this journey, right, typically there are three pathways that we try to classify them as, which is typically what we call as, first pathway is your traditional lift and shift. That's your first baby steps, so to speak, into the cloud. And the second pathway, and from there on, is what we could classify as a modernization pathway. So move to managed services, also called as replatforming. And the last one being adopting fully modernized services, which could be purpose-built tools and database services, which we will cover shortly, right? So these are the three different pathways, right? So you could be on the first or the second or the third pathways, but irrespective of where you are, the idea is that as you move towards the right, and you spend more time in the cloud, that's when you start to realize the full value proposition of the cloud. So a good example of a lift and shift is, hey, today I'm running an Oracle database. I'm managing the Oracle database on premises. I want to get started with cloud adoption. I move that database as it is onto the AWS platform, and I continue running the database the same way that I was, but in the cloud infrastructure space. Now, once you move next step to the right, then you move to managed services, right? So it could still be the same engine like an Oracle or SQL or MySQL that you're running today, but the bulk of the heavy lifting in terms of the management of the database is offloaded to the managed services. And we'll talk about some of those key activities as well. And again, that's the first step of modernization, which is moving to the managed services. And when we move to the managed services, let's look at what are some of the benefits that you get in terms of time that your team spends today and how they can really focus on more on innovation instead of managing database platforms. So today, if you look at the types of activities that customers or your data teams or DBAs or engineers do today, right? They could be doing everything from installing the server to setting up the operating system, installing database, setting up recovery, backups, managing failover, HA. All of these are traditional tasks that people are doing today, right? So when we talk about that move to manage, the first step is that the bulk of the infrastructure management, which includes your patching, installation, high availability configuration, that's handled by the AWS managed services. So which means your teams and your engineers today or your DevOps people can focus on the application, which is what is the most important aspect of it, right? So you switch from an infrastructure management to more application focus. Which means you can focus on the application development, releasing new features, optimizing the existing application workflows, including optimizing database tables, indexes, improving performance, right? And what we've seen is that a simple step of moving to a managed service can reduce some of these activities by almost 80%, which means your team folks can focus more on building new things, extracting more insights. Like all of the databases typically are serving business critical applications, which means data needs to be upfront in terms of the business side. It needs to be fast, it needs to be accessible, and in various formats, right? So you can really leverage some of these managed services and allow your teams to focus more on applying the data than just managing the infrastructure for the data. So these are some of the benefits of moving to managed services, both from a time and people standpoint, as well as how it can impact your application performance and ability to add new features. So we typically, when we talk about this managed database services, the most important service in the AWS portfolio is what we call as Amazon RDS, stands for Relational Database Service. This is a primary flagship offering for managed services, and it's available in a variety of different database engine flavors. So we have commercial offerings like Microsoft SQL Server and Oracle, and now even IBM DB2. And we have open source options. You have MySQL, you can run Postgres workloads, you can run MariaDB, and we also have our own platform called Amazon Aurora, which I will talk about shortly. And RDS is not new. RDS has been there for almost 12, 13 years now. It's been tried and proven, and a lot of our tier 1 customers, Fortune 100, Fortune 200 customers run RDS. And the reason they do that is it removes the bulk of the administration and infrastructure management onto the managed service platform. So things which are pretty much expected for enterprise level databases, like high availability, durability, I want configuration options, various types of compute and storage options, I should be able to scale the database as per my application requirements. All of these are available at a click of a button or a simple API call, which means your teams can really focus on the application, and the infrastructure and the database maintenance, patching, which are typically done every quarterly or once in at least 6 months in most customer environments, and takes up a lot of the time. You can save a lot of that time by using these managed services. So we've actually done a detailed survey. So IDC, in the 2020 and 2021, they went out and did a large survey of all database professionals, and they asked basically questions like, hey, how many people are managing your databases? What are the database skills like Oracle, SQL, open source? And they covered lots of industries, not just enterprises. They covered SMBs, small industries, medium, large, all types of segments of customers. And the data from that survey, we've learned that about just by adopting a managed service, they're able to save about per DBA 60% improvement in the number of databases, right? So if you're managing a fleet of applications, typically there is a DBA assigned to one or many databases. A 60% improvement in the number of databases managed per DBA, which is significant time and people resources, and the DBA can now actually manage more than before, right? And not just that, when you're building new applications, it typically requires a lot of infrastructure to be set up prior. It needs databases to be installed, configured. The whole setup needs to be done before it's handed off to the application teams. That's improved by about 86%. In fact, if you've used RDS in the past, you would really resonate with this. It hardly takes about 5 minutes to set up an entire RDS instance, irrespective of the size, right? So which means productivity for the development teams really improves, because they can spin up and shut down these resources super fast. Not just that, when it comes to the managed service, like I mentioned before, aspects of the underlying infrastructure management, monitoring, and everything is automated and handled by the RDS platform, which means your unexpected outages and system downtimes from a database point are greatly reduced, about 97% reduction in unplanned downtime. I'll talk about some of those features that RDS brings on, which can help you with such kind of improving your resiliency and improving the application SLA, right? Uptime can be greatly improved. And not just that, lastly, from a business standpoint, I spoke about the reduction in TCO. And if you look at it over a 3-year lens, typically databases, people don't create databases and shut them down in 6 months, right? Databases tend to survive a long time. And we've learned from this IDC survey that, within over a 3-year period, people have, 200% improvement on the TCO. From experience, I can tell you that within 4 to 5 months, you should start seeing that return on investment coming back once you move to managed services, right? So there is a quantifiable cost. I'm happy to share this IDC report. A lot of those details are given in that IDC report. So I would highly encourage people today to go back and look through the IDC report, which I will share. So Levent, if you move to the next slide, some of those features that are really useful, and that's where you save time, and how it improves your resiliency. Snapshots is a very good example, right? It's not really that fancy, but when we talk about database professionals, backups and recovery is a very critical function, both from managing the data as well as application resiliency, right? If the database goes offline, you should be able to recover without any data loss. And the way we do that in RDS is through database snapshots. And the beauty of this snapshot technology is it's independent of the database engine. So whether you're running your Oracle or SQL, we rely on storage-based snapshots, and which means it is super fast. And because it's storage-based snapshots, the impact to the database which is running is absolutely minimal. In fact, it's a matter of milliseconds to a second where the database writes are paused and we are able to snap the entire database volume. And it's not just every time you run a backup or a snapshot, it needs to take a full database snapshot. It's incremental, right? So RDS is smart enough to figure out that, hey, these are the data changes since the last snapshot. So it just takes the state change blocks and backs it up. And you are able to then store the snapshot in a different account. You can move it into a different region. You can copy the snapshot wherever you want to keep it safe. You can do all of that within the RDS platform, and it's all can be automated. So again, there is no administration effort there. Most of the features are built into the RDS. And from a security point, including your database, your snapshots are fully encrypted at rest. So all the industries, including financial applications, you can be assured that the snapshots are equally protected. This is a very good example of how you can improve DBA experience using snapshots. The second thing, another feature, is high availability. Now, we all know who have worked on databases that setting up HA is really complicated depending on the engine, the technology, and the database that you worked on. And this is a specialized skill, right? Not everyone can do this. You need database experts to do this. And the way RDS does it, it makes it easy for your team to set this up. Even sometimes I've seen people who have just DevOps teams managing these databases, high availability configurations. It's that easy. And the way it works is in RDS, we provide you an instance, which is, let's say, a primary instance. And this is hosted in an AWS availability zone. Let's say this is availability zone A. And if you select, I want this database to be highly available, there is a feature called multi-availability zone. You just have to enable that single option, and RDS will automatically set up a database copy in a different availability zone. In AWS, an availability zone is a separate cluster of data centers, and they are geographically separate, at least 100 kilometers distance between the two, right? So you can be rest assured that geographically they are different, and it gives you that protection from any kind of natural disasters. And we automatically will set up the database in secondary zone. We will set up data replication, and we will make sure that the databases are in sync. And from an application point, you are provided with an endpoint, and that endpoint will always be what your application and your users will access. Irrespective of where the database is running, you have one single endpoint will not change, and RDS will manage that failover for you automatically. And like I mentioned before, snapshots and even your ongoing database transaction logs or archive logs, they are stored in Amazon S3. So S3 comes with 9 nines of durability. It's in the SLA, which is again a very good benefit for durability from a data point, right? So we move on to some of the other benefits, and just like any other cloud service, scaling up and down. Now, this is the beauty of the cloud, where traditionally, if you're running on premises, it is not an easy thing to do, right? So you procure these things much in advance. With some buffer, it's not easy to adapt to immediate changes. So RDS provides you a lot of options. You can scale your compute from as low as 2 CPU all the way till 128 CPU. You can go from 2 GB RAM to 4 terabyte RAM. Various sets of configuration is available, and all of this is not fixed. You can change this anytime as per your requirements. You can scale up and down. So compute flexibility is one of the key benefits of moving to a managed service. And not just compute, even your storage, right? So I mentioned about the operational excellence before. So storage scaling is again managed by DBAs today. So you provision storage, you add a buffer, you plan ahead 3 months and 6 months. Now in the world of RDS, you just have to say, I want automatic storage scaling. Simple tick box, you say, I want the storage to scale. RDS will automatically add storage as your data volume grows, right? So think about this as a fail-safe. If suddenly you have an influx of growth in data, RDS is there to make sure that your database volumes and database sizes automatically scale up as per your requirement. So you can go up to 64 terabytes for Oracle and MySQL and Postgres. For SQL Server, we support up to 16 terabytes. And all of the scaling is in place. There is no downtime. Your database is continuous to run. Application queries are being served as the storage scales automatically. And scaling up is great, but what if I want to manage my costs? Let's say today I'm running everything, all the VMs and servers are running 24/7. In the cloud, you have the flexibility to shut this down, right? Which means you can save cost. So RDS fully supports shutting down instances when not in use. In fact, we recommend customers automate this to shut down the instances after business hours, especially your non-production environments. And this again is a very good mechanism for you to optimize the cost on cloud. So these are all some of the benefits that you will get with the RDS platform. And to recap, right? So the three different pathways. If you're running any of the engines like SQL and Oracle, or even your NoSQL databases, right? Like your document databases like MongoDB, or if you're running Redis clusters, you have a managed service offering that fits exactly the same. So it's the same engine, no change. You can just adopt managed service without changing the application. Or let's say you want to move away from this commercial engines, right? We've heard from a lot of our customers that licensing for SQL and Oracle is very, very expensive. They really don't see the value that the licensing is bringing in. This is a good, opportunity when you're modernizing and moving to the cloud. Look at moving to open source databases. So you have options like Amazon RDS or Aurora, which I will talk about shortly, that give you all of the benefits of these commercial engines, but without that licensing hit that you will take from database licensing. Or if you're building new applications and you want to adopt native services or purpose-built services, and not just relational, you have various options like DynamoDB is a very good one for key value pairs. You've got caching databases, caching services. There are a lot of options available, right? So these are the different pathways that you can take for modernization. And always, I would recommend starting with the managed service first, and then you move to the right. As you move to the right, again, remember, you will start to see the improvement in TCO. So one of the key flagship services in the database space from my AWS standpoint is Amazon Aurora. So Amazon Aurora is our own offering, and it comes in two flavors. It comes in a MySQL compatible flavor, and it comes in a Postgres compatible flavor. And when we say compatible, it's 100% wired compatible. You can literally take a database backup of MySQL or Postgres and drop it in Aurora, and you can run the application without changing a single line of code. And the reason we have this feature is customers were asking us that we want the features that enterprise features that some of the commercial database vendors provide, but we don't want to have the licensing lock-in that they're used to in the past, right? So that's where Aurora comes in. It's an enterprise database at an open source price, and it's a relational database. So we see the features like having read replicas, so you can scale out, you can do horizontal scaling, you can add up to 15 read replicas on Aurora. You can have these replicas built up in a matter of minutes, right? Because the way Aurora works, it's purely based on storage, so you can really scale up and down and horizontally very fast. And because it's managed by RDS, all of the features that I mentioned about RDS, you will get with Amazon Aurora. So you have the snapshots, you're able to have deployments across multiple availability zones. In fact, Aurora goes further. You can even deploy the databases across multiple regions. So if you're running in Singapore and let's say you want to have a secondary region in Sydney, you can definitely do that. And all of the benefits with encryption and security will still continue. In fact, Aurora adds another feature called serverless, which is another configuration that's available. So definitely recommend checking that out. Um, and for those applications which, let's say, are vendor applications, you are running databases which are provided based on top of vendor applications. A few examples are, Oracle E-Business Suite is a good example, Microsoft SharePoint. There are various third-party products from SAP. All of these run with relational databases in the backend. If you are having any of these, but you want to leverage the managed service, we have RDS Custom as an offering. So RDS Custom gives you all of the familiar RDS benefits that I spoke about with other benefits like full control. So in a managed service, typically you will not have full control on the environment. So we will not have access to the operating system. RDS Custom gives you that benefit. So you can run your databases with sysadmin rights. You can manage your database instances with full operating system, administrator, and root privileges, right? So which means it is an ideal offering for you to lift and shift your vendor applications without making any change to the vendor application. You're leveraging a managed service. In fact, we have a lot of our customers leveraging cloud as a disaster recovery environment, and they can adopt RDS Custom quite easily without making any modifications. They can literally take a backup and run that vendor application on a managed service platform. So definitely recommend this for those applications which require full control. And how do you move your data to the cloud, right? Whether you're in the cloud or whether you're running on premises, how do you get your data to these services like RDS or Aurora or RDS Custom? Again, in that space, we have a fully managed database migration service called as DMS. DMS takes care of moving data from point A to point B, and it is fully managed, which means you can have your instances set up to manage from your on-premises to cloud, from cloud to another account. You could have all sorts of combinations. And the best thing that I like about the service is it is not just for relational databases. You can move data from flat files into relational, from relational to data lakes, from the relational databases to data warehouses. A lot of options are there, right? And it's a single service that handles this for you. You can move it from many sources to many targets. And because it's a managed offering, so all the benefits like multi-availability, encryption during transfer, encryption at rest, it's all built into the service. So it's as simple as setting up an endpoint and then say, I want to move data from A to B. And because it's a migration service, it is very low cost. You only need to have this during the migration. It is not required for you to have this running 24/7. Once you've migrated the data to the target environment, you can literally shut this down. There is no ongoing cost. You only pay for what you use during the migration services, right? So we highly recommend this. So wherever you're in a cloud journey, whether you're migrating or modernizing, definitely look at DMS. So that's a quick, introduction to the various options. So take a step back, right? So I spoke a lot about RDS and Aurora, which is at the top of this diagram, but that's not the entirety of it. Like I mentioned, there are a lot of purpose-built services. Depending on what you're using today in your application, rest assured you have a lot of choice available to you. A few ones to keep in mind is that, hey, if you're running like a Redis database, we have a compliant managed service called Elasticache. If you're running, let's say, MongoDB, there is an exact offering called DocumentDB that is fully compatible with MongoDB. And if you're running time series data, we have a time stream database. So there are various options, and we call these as purpose-built databases, which means that when you're modernizing or you're building something new or you're refactoring your application, look at the right data store for that offering and then choose. So typically 80% of the customers run relational, which might still be a very good fit, but there are those 10 to 20% applications where relational might not be the best choice. So in those cases, you start your modernization right with managed databases instead of building something that you manage and then migrating. So definitely consider looking at the various purpose-built databases. And I'll give you an example of a customer who have done exactly this, right? So we have a very popular, many of you are probably, anyone in Southeast Asia is familiar with Grab. Grab is obviously a ride-hailing, cab service where it's very, very active. It has a large user base, and the number of rides per second per minute is, I'm talking about millions here, right? They are a good example of a customer who have done database modernization, and they have done exactly what I covered today. Some of the aspects that I mentioned were moving to a managed service. So in the past, they used to be running their own MySQL databases, and they really wanted to meet the demand of the customers, both from a performance and a latency standpoint. So that experience that you have by opening the Grab app and searching, and you're getting that sub millisecond response time, that is coming through a combination of using a caching service. So they are using Redis cache, which is served through Elasticache as a managed service, and they have moved the databases to RDS to run on MySQL, right? That experience is a combination of using a caching and a managed service database combined together, gives them that sub millisecond response time. So they are really able to scale this to millions and millions of requests per second. And this is a very good example of using database modernization and how it can really impact and grow the business. So I'll stop here, and maybe we can do a quick poll, Levant.
Thank you, Sudarshan. Hi everyone, we have another poll on your screen right now. Please submit your answers. Thank you very much, everyone. Now I would like to invite Prabir for the next session. Prabir, over to you.
Thanks, Levent, and a big thanks to Sudarshan for elaborating on the advantages of utilizing different AWS managed database services and strategies for the migrations, modernizations with these databases. In the upcoming slides, I'll explain how we path are helping our customers in their digital transformations and applications modernization journey by leveraging AWS managed database services and other features functionalities of the AWS. Our focus is on digital transformations with the enhanced security and performance at a reduced cost while ensuring the functionality of the applications remain uncompromised. So we have used all the whatever services talked about in the previous things, right? So that we have used in our all the case studies. So the first case study is one of the new gen artificial intelligence based biometric identity management solutions provider. So they have the solutions. They are looking for a cost effective, secure environment to deploy their applications. And these applications do photo and video analytics. So it's required GPU and high performance storage and databases. There, one of the main requirement was to analyze 1,000 concurrent photo and video analysis in less than 5 seconds. So usually provide a solutions to them to move the database to MySQL RDS on Graviton and applications on EKS. So what was the result? Result was 7 times better performance, 4 times more compute cores, 5 times faster memory, and they managed to achieve 1,000 concurrent analysis of the video and photo in 4.45 seconds. This is in compare. They tried with other cloud also on premises, but these are the benefits they got once they moved to AWS. The next case study is a medical billing company. They are running their Java-based applications with backend Oracle database. We help them to modernize their applications and databases on AWS. Applications deployed on EC2 instance with auto scaling feature for better availability of the applications. And database, we migrated to MySQL Aurora, which helped them to save cost without compromising the performance and security. In next case study, the customer provide global risk advisory, insurance brokerage and consulting solutions to their multiple customers. We help them to modernize their applications on AWS using Oracle database on RDS with multi-AZ deployment for higher availability and applications on EC2 instance with auto scaling feature. And the backup using snapshot. Also, you move that snapshot backup to the secondary region for better availability. The result was better availability, better security, less maintenance overhead on a secure environment. The next case study is one of the hospitality service provider. They are running their EBS applications on premises. Sudarshan talks about the how you can, if the application is dependent on some databases which you cannot move to RDS. So he talked about how we can move the database to the another service on AWS. So here we migrated their EBS applications to AWS. This applications was integrated with multiple other entities, their internal and external, around 30 plus integrations were there, and around 10,000 users were using this database, right? And we moved that applications to AWS, and later we upgraded the database to 19C and EBS to 12 to 10. What was the result? Result was better performance on cloud and further optimizations of the compute. They managed to free up few licenses from the EBS applications and they repurpose to for other applications, which help them to do the better manageability of the database, reduce the cost, and better secure environment. In next case studies, it's a multinational real estate property management company. They are running their 250 workload on premises on VMware. It was SAP applications, Oracle, MySQL, MS SQL databases. We managed to migrate their entire workload in a lesser downtime with a minimum business interruptions to AWS. Result was better performance, better availability, better security with less cost. In next case study is a leading airport authority in Southeast Asia. They are running their workload on premises. They are using WebLogic and Oracle database at the back end. So we migrated their workload to AWS and configure the backup using snapshot for the better availability. What is our approach to modernize the applications? We help customers to migrate the workload as is. It's a lift and shift. Stable the workload on cloud. After that, we help them to modernize the applications by moving self-managed database to AWS managed database like Aurora, RDS, MySQL Aurora, and we move those applications wherever is possible to modernize using cloud native services. So this is our standard approach. While migrations, we use the DMS services and the other services available, which help them to achieve those high availability and security. Next slide, please. How we do this? We are supporting multiple customers, helping customers to develop their applications, modernize their applications, multiple integrations, whether applications level integrations and database level integrations. We have expertise to manage databases, application server, and data warehouse kind of things. So based on this knowledge, we have developed a automations-led service framework, which is called Cloud and You, right? Which helps customers to do the assessment. Like whenever you do any migrations to cloud, you have to do the assessment. We can provide you the end-to-end assessment. What is your existing footprint? And once you move to the cloud, what all ROI or TCO you'll get. Once you get the approval from your management, will help them to migrate to AWS cloud in a minimum downtime with a minimum less business interruptions. Security postures, we always create a landing zone with proper security and manage and monitor. This is we have a 24/7 support team. If your team can manage that, that is fine. If you want somebody else to manage your environment, we are there to support you. Our team works 24/7. And you have already migrated to cloud, you want further optimizations, cost savings, we have a service for that as well to optimize your environment. So these are the 5 pillars we have. You can pick and choose, maybe combinations of 1, 2, 3, or all the 5s. Yeah. So that's it from my side. Now there will be a poll. Please answer those
Thank you.
polls.
Thank you, Pravir. Thank you for these insights into our case studies, and Sudarshan, insights into the AWS modernization. We have a fresh poll awaiting you in the screen now. You should be able to see. Please take a moment to submit your answers. Thank you very much, everyone. Before going into the question and answers, I would like to give you a brief information about who we are, about PET Infotech. So we are founded in 1991, and we have been in India, USA, Australia, and our APAC office is in Singapore. Most of our attendees today are from APAC, and we serve the APAC region from our Singapore office. We have different customers in different industries, with manufacturing, BFSI, government, and etc. So we have foundational services and products which are ERP and CRM. We of course have many services around the applications and database platforms, whether it's on cloud, whether it's remote, on-site, or hybrid. And we also provide digital transformation services. One of them is modernization with cloud, which we have covered for the databases today. And we have also application modernization, automation, analytics and reporting, and enterprise mobility solutions for our customers. We are partnered with big cloud service providers. We are an advanced Amazon partner, and we also have the necessary certifications to operate in different large-scale environments like CMMI and ISO. You may ask why PET? We have experience in databases, applications, and cloud, and we have been into more than 100 plus cloud projects. We have implemented 1000 plus implementations successfully, and we also have a large team, 100 plus support consultants. We have accumulated 4000 man years of collective experience, and we have 250 plus certified consultants serving our customers in applications and databases and in different other areas. We are supporting databases. We are also doing applications, but we have a specialization in databases. And we also have a zero deviation from the agreed SLA policy when supporting and migrating and modernizing the databases. We work multi-cloud. We have AWS, Azure, Oracle, managed service providers. And we also do implementation and managing engineering systems for BDA and ODA. We have covered today cloud lift and shift, migration, and also modernization. Our services are also around this area. So we do cloud modernization. We can modernize commercial off-the-shelf applications on cloud, and we also can develop and modernize cloud native applications. We also develop custom applications, and we also modernize them. So we can migrate databases on-prem to cloud as it is. We can do modernization, and we can migrate the customer databases to RDS and Aurora. And also we can migrate the databases to open source DB. We have covered some featured use cases, and let's say now we go to Q&A. We will go ahead and take some time for questions now. Just a reminder, please be sure to type your questions into the question box in your control panel. Okay, it looks like we have a few questions from the attendees. Thank you for the questions. We will try and cover as many questions we can in our time. Okay, the first question is from Sam, and it is for Sudarshan. Sam is asking, are there any tools available on AWS to migrate databases from on-premises to managed database services on AWS, Sudarshan?
Okay, thanks for that question, Sam. Answer is yes. I briefly mentioned about database migration service. Prabir mentioned that as well in some of the past projects that they have done. So that's a easy to use service that you can use to migrate from on-premises to directly to manage database services on the cloud. So I would recommend starting there. There are other tools available. You can use the native tools as well. But if you're looking for a managed option, then database migration service is a good place to start. Depending on what databases you're running, you can definitely also use the native tools. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Sudarshan. Hope, Sam, this answers your question. Sudarshan, the next question is also for you. This is from Samantha, and the question is how to migrate a large database, approximately 10 terabyte, to AWS managed database in minimum downtime.
Okay, very good question. And Samantha, that's a very common question that is often asked, the low downtime or minimal downtime approach, because such large databases will be serving business critical applications. So I'll extend what I mentioned in the previous answer. So you can use the database migration service. So the way the database migration service works is it will do an initial full load of the database and followed by what we call as change data capture or CDC technology. So the CDC technology will make sure that the data changes since your initial load is also being replicated to the target database. So if your on-premise database, let's just assume that it's running Oracle today. If you have that Oracle database and your target is an RDS Oracle database, once you set up the DMS, you will set it up for full load plus ongoing replication. And the ongoing replication will make sure that all the changes on the source Oracle logs are getting captured and replayed to the target. And when you're ready, in a quiet time, when you just switch over the application endpoint, that's a very minimal downtime approach. So yes, you can use DMS, and you should do that with ongoing replication when you migrate the data. And the size is not a constraint. So it's only the full load, and ongoing is just going to be the change that's being replayed. So you can use DMS to do this.
Thank you, Sudarshan. The next question is from Liam, and probably this question is for you. Liam is asking, how are you helping customers to modernize their applications on the cloud?
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, we have a automations-led service framework, which is called Cloud and You. So that we developed based on our experience on the applications, integrations, database, right? So we use that for migrations or modernizations, applications and database on cloud, which helps you to migrate the entire workload in a minimum downtime with minimum business interruptions. Database from self-managed to AWS managed database, Also, if you can do the modernizations of that applications with some purpose-built database, everything is included over there, and it helps you to do the assessment, migrations, optimization, security postures management, and manage services for 24/7.
Thank you, Pravir. Okay, thanks for all the queries you shared. I think with that, we end the webinar. Thank you everyone for taking time and joining us today. We appreciate you being here. Hope you found this session interesting and informative. If you have any more questions for us, you can email me and we will reply to you. My email address is on the screen now, levent.özkan@pakinfotech.com. We will also share the recording of this webinar with all of you very soon. Once again, thank you for joining. We will see you next time.